Bust it.
Hello and thanks for staying with us. Welcome to Political Platform. My name is Amechi Anapwe. Candidates or aspirants, that's their name appellation for now. They are all aspirants, those hoping to pick nomination forms to contest the various positions open for contest in the 2019 general elections. Those hoping to pick the tickets of their parties, 91 registered political parties, is going to be full of activities. Politicians are no longer in Abuja, they are not in town. They have all gone down to their constituencies. We have been trying to see those that are available to invite for some of our live discussion programs. But anytime you put a call across, they tell you I'm in my constituency, I'm picking a form and returning form, I'm consulting with my constituency. And we say, let's hope the visit to the constituency will not just be during and around the elections. Always ensure that you go back to consult with your constituency even when it's an off-election period. So a lot of things are happening. Let's take a look at the nomination forms for the two big parties. If you hope to run to see if you can obtain the party's ticket for the presidency, the APC will be charging 45 million. Of course, President Muhammad Buhari has already dropped his own money, not directly, through a support group. Nigeria's Consolidated Ambassadors Network, they said they are so happy with the good work the president has done and are ready to indeed push out that money, 45 million, to purchase that form for him. We heard that several other groups were struggling over who will be giving the nod to pay for the presidents. And if you go to the states, it's also a similar situation. Support groups will do everything possible to be the ones to pay for the nomination forms of incumbent governors who are desirous of coming back. That's the power of incumbency. For their opponents, they have to dig deep. 4 years ago, the president dug deep. He sought for a bank loan and obtained it to indeed pick his own nomination form. But having been in power for more than 3 years, then you know that a lot of support groups will come up. That's Nigeria's politics for you. So a lot of activities going on there. For the PDP presidential nomination form, 12 million. Now let's take a look at governorship. The APC is demanding 22.5 million, while the PDP is demanding for 6 million. For Senate, APC 8.5 million, PDP 3.5 million. So is APC more expensive than PDP? That's the big question. House of Reps, APC 3.8 million, PDP 1.5 million. Does it show superiority and inferiority as we go into the contest? House of Assembly, APC 1.1 million, PDP 600,000. So the PDP is a lot cheaper. If you're one person who does not have so much fun, then you may have to consider that opposition party. But the party in power in the center is always the attraction. Fast forward to 2015 general election, PDP's nomination forms were higher in value and more expensive than that of the APC. Now, 45-year-old Ismail Yakubu was paraded by the police yesterday. He was the man the police claims that gave it false information, leading to the raid, unauthorized, they say, raid on the residence of elder statesman, 91-year-old, going to 92, Edwin Clark. It came at a time Edwin Clark is appealing to groups in the Niger Delta. Many of them have threatened reprisal action for the action of course, the police in disturbing a man who an elder statesman they believe is building peace in Nigeria and not stockpiling arms. Later on this program, we'll be welcoming our friend and a member of the APC, Ibrahim Modibo, to offer his perspectives on the primaries about to commence any moment from now and the cost of nomination forms that the main parties are throwing up. My colleague Adeba Abodure is with me in the studio this morning.
Hamishi, well, it's, I think that there are smaller parties who are charging very, very minimal money I don't know whether maybe probably politicians are not considering them for electoral value or electoral fortune, and so they are not going to some of those smaller parties, and they have to go to the big ones where they have to cough out big amount of money. But one thing is brewing APC. I don't know how they are going to handle it, and it raises the critical question of party supremacy. As at yesterday, more than 9 states came out boldly that they will never conduct direct primaries. They are going to go for indirect primaries.
Are you surprised?
And they cut across the country, and more states may likely join them today.
Are you surprised?
Well, is how the national leadership of the party will handle this is what we probably watch out for.
I think they will be helpless. I said it on this program. The governors in Nigeria's party system will always have their way, and one way of making them not to have their way is to push for direct primaries, and it will hurt them most. And let's see whether the APC will risk and not getting the support of the governors going into the general election, or again dancing to their tune by accepting the resolutions of the state chapters to use indirect.
Yeah, the national police secretary of the party was insisting yesterday that it's going to be direct primary everywhere, but the many states are saying no, particularly the Northeast. No single state in the Northeast wants to have, and they are claiming 2 reasons. One is insecurity. The second point is the cost effectiveness of indirect primary as opposed to direct primary. Something came out yesterday from the Federal Executive Council, and it's a source of worry to me. And I think many Nigerians we also think about it. The Minister of Health came out and said, by the year 2023, we are going to minimize cholera.
On a day, cholera killed 12 in one of the states of the Federation.
And so, if we have to wait for 4 years before we finally wipe out cholera, I don't know how many deaths we'll probably record. I think it's a worrisome thing. I think, if you go back, 1972-73, when pilgrims returned from Hajj, and some of them came back with cholera, and it spread like wildfire across the country. People died in their hundreds. That is
then cholera was being imported into Nigeria. Yes, we're exporting cholera.
Yeah, that was 46 years ago, and here we are still talking of looking for fashioning policies that will help us reduce cholera by the year 2023, 4 years time. I think it's a worrisome thing. For me, I think there are so many things that we gloss over, and when we say them, I don't know. I don't have information to probably give a contrary opinion on why the minister is pushing for that year. But I have a very, very strong feeling that any disease of whatever nature that is causing death in scores or in tens or in hundreds is something that should be addressed promptly.
As a national emergency.
As a national emergency. We don't have to wait for 4 years. It's a worrisome thing.
Maybe the government will say we need a plan to eradicate this disease.
Are we supposed to be looking for a plan after we witnessed massive killing 46 years ago?
If there's a plan, a long-term plan, we may say, let's work towards it. Let's see how we can help them to achieve that. But it's shameful. I understand what you mean. It's quite shameful that after all these decades of these years, not just for cholera, most of the killer diseases in Nigeria are preventable diseases. Yeah. Preventable by basic practices, basic amenities,
basic hygiene
being in place. Cholera, for instance, is if you don't have access to potable water, clean drinking water. If you resort to stream where people defecate, to also get your so many places where camels and donkeys share pond with humans still exist in Nigeria, several states in Nigeria. So why will you not have cholera? It's preventable. Malaria is preventable. Just clean your environment, prevent the mosquitoes from hibernating and procreating. You won't have it. So it's just all like it was the late Oluko Ransom Kuti that we christened the father of primary health care. Yeah. He came and said the major problem of Nigeria's health system is primary health care. These basic preventable diseases, and he tried to tackle it. But what do we have? A situation where even the tertiary health institutions, secondary health institutions are overburdened. Go to a teaching hospital, they still treat malaria. They still receive outpatients coming with complaints of malaria, typhoid fever, name it, overcrowding and overwhelming teaching hospitals, federal medical centers, when ordinary primary healthcare center can handle it. Once these primary healthcare centers are close to, in terms of WHO standards, one primary healthcare to a certain distance, but they are not available in Nigeria. It has thrown up this problem.
You know what? But if you look back about 2 months ago, Bill Gates, one of the world's richest man, came out and said, Oliko Irasom Kuti, the Minister of Health under Ibrahim Babangida, was God's gift to the world. He came up with this primary health care. He said America came to tap from him. And today in America, they are implementing that policy successfully. That's an open disclosure by somebody who is also involved in health matters across the world. So if God has given us that kind of a person and we came up with that policy, and other countries are now emulating us, particularly America is emulating us, and then we discarded with the policy, and now we are now thinking of 4 years. We are now thinking in 4 years we wipe out cholera. It's really a sad reminder that we are just endlessly searching for policies when we already have one that we're supposed to fine-tune and implement.
Malaria is the biggest killer disease in Nigeria. More than 300,000 are killed annually in the country. And the annoying thing is that, like I said, it's preventable. And even when you acquire the disease, if you have up to 2,000, you can treat it. But unfortunately, because of the poverty-stricken nature of our citizens, who can afford 1,000 naira to buy malaria drugs? So when it happens, they will manage it, they will pray, they will fast, hoping it will go, but it will kill them. It's unfortunate. But good enough, a plan is out. Let's see how we support them. Even if it's a 10-year plan, let's work towards it and see how we can support them. We'll take a break. When we come back, your mails and our guests will come in. Please don't get away.
Welcome back. It's the mail segment. I am Usaitin Yari.
And Amaka Okoro. Welcome.
We begin with reactions ahead of the 2019 general elections. Emeka in Abuja says some of the current political developments in our country regarding the forthcoming 2019 general elections are quite unfortunate. Barely 5 months to the said elections, funds are yet to be released to the INEC, and the president has refused to assent to the proposed Electoral Amendment Bill 2018 for the third time this year, over what he called clerical and drafting errors. Permit me to say that all of these are beginning to threaten the success and credibility of the planned 2019 general elections. How did we get to this sorry state? Is President Buhari trying to frustrate the 2019 general elections from holding as earlier planned by the electoral emperor? May God help our country, Nigeria.
And Comrade Monday Abe in Abuja is reacting to the sum for the expression of interest and nomination form. And he says, "Good morning, Political Platform crew. Your analysis on the humongous sum for expression of interest and nomination forms by some political parties yesterday is so spot on. I concur with the crew that this ugly development in our polity is lugubrious and condemnable. The over-monetization of our politics is a recipe for corruption and underdevelopment of our country. Implication of this is that our political space will be hijacked by moneybags and godfathers who now see politics as one of the most lucrative businesses in the country, which yields more dividends on investment. I wish to use this medium to call on APC, PDP and all political parties in the country to slash the cost of their expression of interest and nomination forms in order to accommodate the youth under the auspices of not too young to run and protracted Nigerians who genuinely want to serve the people. Finally, in addition to the suggestions opined by the crew, an amendment to the Electoral Act which should empower INEC to fix a maximum benchmark for the expression of interest in nomination forms of not more than 5 million naira by all political parties in the country is urgently needed in order to checkmate this ugly trend of money politics.
That's it on the mail segment today. Continue to write to us through Political Platform at raypower.fm.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Issue of Nomination forms, cost of nomination forms and expression of interest form. It may interest you to know that part of the recommendations of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill that was passed by the National Assembly, but was rejected by President Buhari, was part of the provisions is an aspect that limits and fixes the cost of nomination forms. So if that has sailed through, parties would not have been charging these big sum. And some people have also told me that there was an attempt to include a compulsory debate into it, but I'm not certain of that one, but we'll find out. So when the president refuses to sign, maybe because of some issues, irregularities, drafting errors, we hope that all these will be rectified so that he can quickly sign, and these other provisions that will be brought in.
Yeah, there is a provision in that electoral act that is now a subject of dispute between the executive and the legislature. There is a benchmark that was put there of what parties can actually.
You can't charge above.
That you can't charge above for those who wants to seek. Who want to seek
a party's ticket.
A party's ticket to contest election, and for A.K. Williams, where I can speak convincingly about the Second Republic. I do know that there are political parties like the People's Redemption Party under the leadership of the late Malam Aminu Kano, whose identity was never hidden as a friend of the Talakawas. There were people who contested election on the platform of the party and they did not pay a dime for nomination. So
it's possible.
So it is possible. And then some of them don't even have money to even print posters, and yet they won elections into.
They were doing house to house.
Yeah,
neighbor to neighbor.
Yeah, and they won election into the states and federal legislature.
I think we'll devote more time to this.
And for Oluwabori from Alagbado, who is asking about debate, there is a bill in the National Assembly.
Okay, a separate bill. Yes.
Yeah, a separate bill to create a debate commission. That bill is moving at a snail speed, and it doesn't seem as if much importance is being attached to it. There is a bill
that makes it compulsory.
That make it compulsory
for candidates to go into a debate.
To go into debate, particularly for the governorship and presidential candidates.
Okay. Let's bring in our analyst for today, Ibrahim Modibo, a journalist and a politician of the APC. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maneki. I greet you and my wonderful friend, Baduri.
You heard all we said about high nomination form costs. Your party is at the lead. What do you have to say about it?
Yes, you see, the issue of this nomination form and the cost implication involved is something that should be welcomed by Democrats of conscience, because I strongly believe that it's like comparing the night or darkness and light. This is a party that is a government, and this is a party that wants to bring people that are committed, not only Democrats with money bound. Because if you look at elections generally the world over, most aspirants go back to the people from the people funds and also come over to contest elections. And therefore, what we presuppose is that there will be an attempt, or there should be a kind of forum where most of the aspirants will aggregate opinion and also come to contest. Because if you look at APC, it is the largest party in South Africa today. And therefore, we believe that the more the merrier, but still there is need to remove the shaft from the grave. That's why this cost of taking this thing, cost of engaging in the electoral process is a bit high, because the party, as you see, as of today, we don't have money back. And the president is not president that has money. So therefore, the party needs money to aggregate its own views and values towards confronting the next election. Because we don't want one single individual to come over, like some other parties in the days gone by, to say that they are going to be the major arrowhead of funding the party so as to defend the pillars of the party. That's why today, Dr. Meki, this money is aggregated so that we form a very good money that will confront these elections in Nigeria on 2019.
Yeah, Modibo, let me ask you this question quickly. You are an outstanding journalist, and not just an outstanding journalist, a political reporter of note. before you plunge into the murky waters of politics. Are you not worried that parties has to source for money through nomination forms when
to run the secretariat?
To run the secretariat, when the parties are supposed to be driven by the people, the parties are supposed to be driven by the people, mobilize them, pay membership fees, and then they own the party, they own the process. Are you not worried that since 1999, none of the parties has been able to create a situation where the members will actually fund the activities of the political parties?
Yes, Dr. Amechi, to every rule there's an exception. Agreed that this is going to be, this is supposed to be the normal format based on textbook experience. But from the practical experience in Nigerian politics, for which you and I have been in the country for a very long time, we know that the 1 naira, the 10 naira, 1 naira that they are paying as fees, for members, would not be able to confront these money banks that have allegedly stolen Nigerian funds. We are confronting a very big monster with very large pockets and people that have known to have allegedly looted this country. Therefore, for us to match them in their own game, we have to aggregate money so that we confront these elections in a very solid, smooth, and transparent manner. Because President Muhammadu Buhari is one person that does not have money. He only has credibility. He has foresight. He had the wherewithal to turn around the fortune of this country. As you can see,
do you think the president can personally afford that 45 million? If not that this support group came in, do you think he can afford it?
Look, the president cannot afford. That's what I'm saying, Dr. Amechi. I thank you for this wonderful analysis. Because the president, in his humility, and a man that has not been able to steal anything, he could not raise that for 12 million.
No, let's take you up on another issue, on a quick one. The direct or indirect primaries, the National Secretariat of the APC says if a state must do indirect primary, it must get authorization from the national leadership. But most of the states have said indirect is the way.
Thank you, Dr. Amechi. You see, when President Muhammadu Buhari came in along with the APC, it came on a three-tripodial structure: fight corruption, insecurity, and the then there are some titles that is open the political track and institute corruption to conform with the global democratic standard. Now, this is Adam Oshimole and his team, who all know Adam Oshimole as evidence, a man of passion and a committed Democrat whose revolutionary policies is to press of the people about the people. So, as I've said, the chairman is a passionate Democrat and committed to the rule of law and also integrity policies that has to do with mass participation of people. Most of these people that are against the direct primary, which is mass participation based on the foundation of the government of the people, for the people, about the people, is because they are so electorate. If they do not want to go in direct primary today, are they not going in direct primaries, direct election in 2019? That's the fundamental question to ask. You see, we have to appreciate the dynamics of approachable democracy, Dr. Amechi. And having done that, we should see to the fact that most of these governors, most of these people are even afraid of their shadows. When they are moving, when they think their shadows, that's wrong because they have not been able to aggregate opinion and do enough to their people. Therefore, they are afraid of meeting the people. Example, the government and then get people, and these are the they have not even addressed issues of other.
Okay. I think we are still losing quality on that call, but we have to. We have to thank you so much, Ibrahim Modibo. We have to thank you so much.
Thank you.
Time is up, and the call is not so clear again. Ibrahim Modibo, a journalist, a leading journalist, and a member of the APC, weighs in on twin issues of direct or indirect primaries and the high cost of a nomination form for to participate in the primaries of the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC. Thank you so much, our distinguished and revered listeners and viewers. for being part of today's edition. We'll be back on Friday for the very last edition of the week. On behalf of Adeba Bodre, my name is Amichana. We do have a wonderful time.
Bust it.